Welcome to this introduction of Major Essay 2. This presentation goes into quite a bit of detail about the assignment, but you also need to look at the assignment sheet itself, which is in Blackboard. This essay has a few differences from our first one, and one is the length. This one will be at least 4 full pages, 4 to 5 typically, and it will be MLA formatted with a works cited page. We'll be using sources. You'll be using at least 2 of the approved sources. All others have to be approved in advance, and that includes anything you want to use from online, like a dictionary definition or something from Wikipedia. You got to talk to us first, please. We'll be using quotes, a minimum of 4 of them. The paper's due as .doc, docx, RTF. Please don't load a PDF because it makes it a bit harder for us to leave comments on. Our focus for Major Essay 2 is academic argument and source use. We'll be talking about concepts like creating an academic argument in terms of structure, tone, source use, how to read and summarize sources, how to then use that source material to support your ideas and integrate it into paragraphs. We'll also be covering MLA quote formatting and MLA works cited formatting. So we know that this can feel like a lot, and just want to point out that you are not alone in getting through all of the concepts and skills for Major Essay 2. This is a sample calendar just for you to glance at to let you know that we have so many different drafting activities planned. You're going to be brainstorming together. You're going to be learning about the vocabulary. You're going to be doing a graphic organizer, source summaries, drafts, peer review. The structure that we have for Major Essay 2 is very, very similar to the last unit we went through, and particularly will be very similar to our third unit. Please see the assignment sheet for the actual assignment calendar. It's all in there with the due dates and the exact assignments that we'll be doing each week. One of the main concepts that we're starting with is that of an academic argument. And we have a quick lecture, separate lecture on what an academic argument is like. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on it other than to say that it's really much more about you clearly and logically presenting ideas that are supported by sources that we find, and then presenting that to the reader in a way that the reader says, yeah, good idea, great idea, sounds good. Not that you have the right answer or that there even is one way to answer a particular question, one particular solution to find. So we're open to all sorts of different approaches to our assignments when we're talking about academic argument. Keep in mind that for this paper, your audience is your teacher and your fellow students. So this is the background that's pulled from the assignment sheet itself. I want to just quickly go over some of the highlights. For Unit 1, we defined our voice and explained how it was developed. For this unit, we're going to explore how to use that voice effectively using strategies of academic argumentation. While we're growing up, we learn a lot about what makes somebody be heard, right? Who has their ideas considered, who is paid attention to, who isn't, and why. In Unit 2, you're going to be thinking about a time where you want to achieve something. And that could be something that's in front of you now, like maybe you're going to be asking your boss for a salary increase. It could be something from your past, like maybe arguing with your parents for more screen time. It could be something completely hypothetical and silly, like arguing for your band to get a gig at a local bar. You can totally make it up. What we're practicing in this paper is making a plan for being successful in that argument. In the paper, you're going to be describing what the scenario is, which we call rhetorical context, and that's who will be there, what are their biases, what are their needs that you need to address in the argument. And then in your paper, you're going to be laying out your plan for how you're going to convince that particular audience and get your way. The assignment itself is right here. Using the given readings, in addition to your own experiences and observations, write an essay that explains your plan to effectively use the strategies of ethos, pathos, and logos to have a constructive argument in a specific scenario. A lot of vocabulary there, but don't worry, we're going to go over all of these this unit. Briefly, I want to cover what the individual parts of the essay will look like. You're going to start out with an introduction paragraph. It's going to explain the rhetorical situation, which means you're going to describe your goal for the discussion, your audience, their current position on that topic. And one way to do this in an interesting way is to write an anecdote or a short story showing the situation you're trying to resolve with this discussion. Then your introduction paragraph needs to end with a single sentence thesis statement. For your thesis statement, it should make a claim about how best to have a constructive conversation within that specific context. It must mention strategies that can be general or specific, and also it should explain that rhetorical context or scenario. This is one of the templates that we give you in the assignment sheet. The template is this. When I'm trying to convince blank, the strategy of blank is the most important to focus on because of blank. So you could fill that in by saying, when I'm trying to convince my toddler to eat vegetables, right, the strategy of ethos is the most important to focus on because they trust my credibility. This does not resemble my particular discussion with my kids eating vegetables, but it could work. It could work as a possible paper topic. We give you a couple examples. One that's a general thesis would be, while there are a number of effective strategies in arguing for wage increase, logos is the most effective strategy because profit margins and employee productivity are key to a company's success. So that's one way to go into the thesis statement, is to lay out there what is you think your number one strategy that you're going to be discussing. For this assignment, we've laid out really specific items for you to cover in each of your body paragraphs. And we're doing that mostly because we have so many different concepts which we're utilizing in this essay, which might be new to some of you. Many of you may have already heard of ethos, pathos, and logos, for example. But if you haven't, we want to give a lot of structure to make this whole discussion easier. In your body paragraphs, you will explain your ethos plan, your pathos plan, and your logos plan. And I promise you, we're not just going to throw you into understanding what those are. We have lots of readings for you in the first week working on this unit, which describe them, and we're also going to practice in a discussion board coming up with examples. So if this all sounds like Greek to you, sorry, I couldn't resist. It is, and you're going to be fine. We'll get there. It may not make sense now, but give it a couple weeks. You will also have a body paragraph where you choose a helpful strategy. This could be something like listening carefully, being concise, researching multiple perspectives, or keeping your own biases in check. We have lots of readings available for you that will give you strategies as well as pitfalls. You will also have a pitfall paragraph where you discuss something to avoid, like avoiding confirmation bias, avoiding using misinformation, not evaluating sources appropriately. And again, lots of sources for you. We'll be practicing the P's formatting, which we started with Major Essay 1. And this is just a quick overview of what that will look like. And we'll go into a lot more detail as we put together our materials for this essay. The main thing that we are adding to this P's idea is in the evidence portion of the paragraph. For major essay 1, we were looking at the evidence of your experiences. For this paper, that's also appropriate, but we're going to be adding using evidence from the sources so that we can practice using MLA quote formatting. But the idea essentially of P's paragraph formatting is the same in this essay. Your conclusion paragraph, you should attempt one of the traditional approaches. And again, there's lecture material on this during the unit. You can offer advice to your future self or your audience. This is often done with framing, where you refer back to the attention getter in the introduction. You can explain what you've learned from this assignment. That's a big crowd favorite. You can make a policy recommendation or something that you want to do further research or learning about. One of the things that we're going to be doing as we put together this paper is what we call reading summaries. And this is something really that we've created over the years to help students really focus in on how to quickly give an overview of both the main idea of a source as well as how to pick out an illustration of a great source or idea to help explain that idea from the source. There's a whole lecture on using the sources to write your summary. So I promise for all of these items, there's a lot more information. Want to highlight that you want to use approved sources only from the list on the assignment sheet. This is English 101 is not a research writing class. Not really interested in the wow factor of the sources you use. 101 is just about making sure that you know how to use sources appropriately and to use MLA formatting. So I love that my little Screencastify alert is covering up this bottom part with the arrow. So you're welcome to do your own research. You just need to make sure that you get approval from your instructor at least 5 days before the essay is due to make sure that it's an appropriate source. And we have a bonus opportunity that if you provide a source that's good enough to share with the class, you can get a bonus of 2 points with a max of 6 over the course of this unit. I want to leave you with a couple points about a writer's mindset. One is start fresh. In the beginning, try to consider multiple ways to plan your discussion. I would also add in here, be patient, because if you haven't written this kind of essay before, it can seem like a lot to take in. Be open, approach the readings with curiosity, and try to understand the points of all sides, especially if you initially disagree. Let the experts do the hard work. Keep track of interesting ideas you find in the readings as you use your graphic organizer, and let the experts give you ideas for your paper. You are not alone. There should be enough information in the sources for you to put together a great paper. If you're feeling stuck, read and reread to gather more ideas. And I would also add, reach out to the tutors, reach out to your instructors, and we look forward to seeing what you come up with for this major essay 2.